Christmas time. The joy season filled with the abundance of presents, the smell of pine trees, Christmas tree lights, classic humor from Hallmark movies, and the ambiance of love from friends and family. My Christmas in 2017 was absolutely nothing like this. My home felt cold, empty. My Christmas tree lights flickered, and my friends and family were saddened with the thoughts of the inevitable happening. My dad wasn't going to beat cancer, and a new normal was approaching. Grief is a natural response to loss. It's a sudden ache and pain you feel when you lose something or someone that you loved. Often this feeling can be super overwhelming and introduce various emotions ranging from anger, disbelief, shock, and of course, sadness. This feeling of grief may often disrupt your physical health in terms of your sleep pattern, your eating habits, and your overall mental health. These are all common and typical reactions you can have with dealing with the loss of something or someone that you loved. Grief is truly one of life's biggest challenges and obstacles you have to face. I faced this starting at the end of 2017. Growing up, I was always involved in sports. In second grade, I competed in both basketball and volleyball in the Catholic Youth Organization. Knowing it was a small community, my teammates' parents were coaches, followed by my dad, who was an assistant coach. Pretty much every year following, I had weeks consisting of rivalry games, practices after school, games on the weekends, and I constantly met new friends and teammates. On my off practice days, my dad and I played a fun basketball game called All Around the World. We played this game in our front yard on our tall, black 10-foot basketball hoop that towered over our one-story house. Basically, the first player shoots from the first spot. If they make that basket, they advance to shoot from the next. They continue shooting until a basket is missed, advancing the next player's turn to travel all around the world. Whenever my dad and I played this game, he made small bets with me, whether that was candy, an ice cream date after school, or extra TV time at home. However, every single time we played, I lost. Loss after loss after loss after loss. I spent hours outside demanding a rematch until the sun went down and our black basketball hoop was no longer visible to see. When it was finally time to go back inside, I felt completely empty, never wanting to talk to my dad for the rest of the night or even converse with him about his winning streak. I absolutely hated how good he was at the game and how I could never beat him. He was my absolute biggest rival, and this was one of my first times really feeling grief. Come the year 2015, I was met with a curveball of grief. I vividly remember coming home to the words, "Your dad has stage 3 stomach cancer." Hearing this felt like a punch in the stomach, as if my heart was ripped out of my chest and crushed right in front of me. So much, all at once. After hearing the news, my life took a complete turn. I was first met with the new environment of hospitals and nurses while my dad received his chemotherapy and radiation treatments. Then I was met with my peers looking at me differently. I constantly heard, "You are so strong. I know you'll get through this." But in actuality, I was in complete disbelief and shock. I didn't believe my dad had stage 3 stomach cancer. I didn't believe cancer was real. I didn't believe he was going to die. But sadly, a harsh reality check did come to me when the doctors had to take away his stomach, and his physicalities slowly deteriorated in front of me in a span of 2 years. But honestly, I will give props to my dad. The doctors gave him 6 months, and he surpassed that by a whole 2 years. up until the day after Christmas in 2017. After his death, I started going through the stages of the grief without really even knowing. At first, yet again, I was in complete disbelief. I thought that the ambulance that took him the morning he passed was going to bring him back alive and healthy, and we were all going to be a happy family again. But it didn't. This is when I started to feel anger. I was angry, not understanding why my teammates still deserve to have their dads as coaches. I was angry, not understanding why God chose to do this to my family. I was angry, not understanding why I didn't deserve a dad. Then I tried to start a bargain with God. I pray to God every night saying, please God, I won't even think of doing anything bad. I'll keep my grades good. I'll continue to compete hard in my sports if you just bring my dad back tomorrow. I gave myself false hope, thinking the impossible was possible. Then I met myself with a new question of, what if? What if I didn't stress my dad out with my 4th grade math homework? What if I tried harder at volleyball practice? What if I didn't spend hours outside demanding an all-around-the-world rematch? Then this was met with the next stage, depression. Every day felt the same. I constantly lived in a fog. I wanted to be isolated all the time. I never wanted to converse with anyone. I felt alone. I felt empty. And a clear void was present in my life. Then I met myself with a new question of, what's even the point of going on? But through the cloudiness, and may I say this process took years, I found acceptance of what I'd lost, because I really didn't lose it all. I rather gained something new. My dad left me with this new idea of moving forward rather than moving on. I didn't move on, forgetting about my dad and ignoring all the emotions felt. I rather grew to learn to be appreciative for the role he played in my life. I grew to learn to be appreciative for the long days my dad worked from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. as an aircraft mechanic to play all around the world outside with me. I grew to learn to be appreciative for the time he took to show up to every single one of my CYO games, regardless of the pain he was in. I grew to learn to be appreciative for him fighting to make it to one last Christmas for my family and I. And I grew to learn to be appreciative for the realization that another day to compete against your absolute biggest rival is never promised. There are so many myths that follow dealing with grief. Many might say it's important to stay strong in the face of loss. When everyone heard that my father had passed, I felt annoyed because staying strong really was the only thing I really could do. In reality, I felt sad, I felt frightened, and I was exhausted because every day I had to put on a brave front with the crumbling thoughts of knowing my dad was no longer going to walk me down the aisle. My dad was no longer going to take me to the school's upcoming father-daughter dance. My dad was no longer going to be on the sidelines of my volleyball games. But being strong didn't mean quickly moving on to forget about my loss. I'd rather move forward in both my athletic and academic life with him, understanding that although I may not have his physical presence, I can still embrace what he left me. My competitiveness, my drive, my ability to rise above pressure situations, my sportsmanship, my leadership, my humbleness. This is what truly kept me strong. Even subtle losses in life can trigger this feeling of grief, whether that's losing a job, graduating high school, leaving to attend college, or breaking up with a significant other. Whatever your loss is, it's personal to you and completely valid. You should never feel ashamed for showing these vulnerable emotions as the person, relationship, or situation was personal and significant to you in your life. There is no right or wrong way to grieve at all. Let it hurt, let it heal. Some may come to terms with their loss in a matter of days, weeks, months, or years, like me personally. However, there are healthy ways you can cope and ease your sadness, whether that's confiding in friends, playing your sport, or partaking in your favorite hobby or activity. With time, these small coping mechanisms can help you come to terms with your loss. They can also help you come to terms and ease your sadness, leading you to find a new meaning in your life, and eventually help you move forward with the lessons from your lost loved one learned. I lost my dad to stage 3 stomach cancer, and I truly miss him every day. But I am humble because of him. I am passionate because of him. I am competitive because of him. I'm resilient because of him. I'm strong because of him. I am Kendal Kibanoff. Thank you.